Any last thing, where we can find you, where they can see your show, where you'd like people to connect with you?
Well, the simple place is you pin the link up top to my link tree, so you can find all the locations there. You can find the Law Enforcement Talk radio show on Facebook, which is a huge generator of revenue for me. And letradio.com. That's letradio.com is the website. And Podcast Pros, we do rooms here Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. And most of it is not about the actual art of podcasting. It's about how to be discovered. So no matter what you do, whether you're an author, keynote speaker, whatever it is, we've got good information to help you.
Perfecto. Look at that. True radio, man. Started on time, ended on time. So thank you, John. We'll be passing the mic to the amazing Dr. Jamie Lacey. So good to see you, Dr. Jamie. Good morning.
Good morning, Mary Lynn, and good morning, John, and good morning, Breakfast with Champions. I just truly always enjoy, Mary Lynn, the community spotlight. My first time being introduced to John, and I just love the masculine energy. I know I'm hearing you guys make all the comments about his voice and who he is. I'm like, go John. I absolutely love some masculine energy. And I also love those that are in law enforcement because when I'm on court TV, this past 2 years, more than ever, John, I got to be in the spaces with detectives, retired police officers, and it's just been a whole different vibe. So keep on, John, keep letting us hear your voice and be in your presence. And I hope you have an amazing time in Ireland with your family and making those memories and keep inspiring us. So thank you, Mary Lynn, for bringing John to the breakfast table and spotlighting him in the community. And good morning to Rocky and Christina and Mary Kim and Debbie and Portia, all some of great people who I got to spend some time with a few weeks ago in New York. So it's been such a blessing. And good morning to Regina and Nate, Julie, to see some amazing people sitting around the breakfast table. And what are you guys having for breakfast? I have my coffee. And, Natasha, this past weekend for me has been a reminder of just how important soul, and I thought I saw Myra join, how taking time for ourselves to heal, to deal, and also take care of ourselves. It was Mother's Day weekend, and we had our Woman Redeemed Wellness Retreat, where we brought together a group of women, and we stayed in a beautiful, gorgeous home on the Evermore Resort property in Orlando, beautiful lagoon, spa, restaurants, all the things that you can ask for in a resort in Florida. But what I realized is that when we take time to not only heal, and I have the 3 pillars of healing, which you can hear me break down in my TEDx talk called Breaking the Chains of Unhealthy Relationships. But it's looking at your mindset, your inner work, and your body work. So in the morning, having time to have devotion or reflection, giving those first fruits of your day and understanding your thoughts, your beliefs, and how they've come to be, and taking time to be in silence or to be around other people who can help pull those things out. And then looking at our inner work, Amanda, we all have places, in particular in relationships, where we were wounded, where we were betrayed, where we were let down, where we were neglected. And until we understand the narrative of our life, then we're not going to understand the reason why we keep having the same patterns or keep meeting the same people or keep being in the same loop of life. We have to understand and connect what has happened to us, what were our thoughts based off of what have happened to us, what are our beliefs that we formed, and then what are our actions that we keep seeing repetitively. And then we have that third pillar, which is the body work. And that's where we were this past weekend, waking up and doing our morning yoga each morning and stretching our body, saying hello to our body. And do you know, Judith, I experienced something I have never experienced before. And I was just, wow. I experienced soul drumming. I don't know how many of you have ever done soul drumming, but pretty much we're using drumsticks, we're using movement, and just expression with the music and just really getting in tune with our body. I felt like, Trisha, I was working out for a week, and it was a phenomenal experience. If you have not experienced that, I would highly recommend that. But I'm sharing that to say that taking the time, as we did this past weekend at the Woman Redeemed Wellness Retreat, to not only go through the 3 pillars of healing, because you cannot talk your way out of the challenges and problems and the things that you're facing in life. There has to be other things somatically and energetically that we have to kind of re-roll in that boat in the same direction to truly have a breakthrough. But we also had time to be in wellness. Whether it was for those that were heading to the spa because we were at a resort, or those that were in communion with their friends, or like for me, Nate, there was some things I'm like, you know what? I feel like I can still do these things. So I'm going to go for it. So if you could see on my social media, going down the slide and just getting dunked in the water. And then I saw all these kids that were jumping off of this. I don't even know how high it was, but jumping off of this ledge and edge, either diving in or swinging off of a rope. And I said to myself, you know, I've never done that, Kim, but I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to try that. So I'm walking up to the ledge, Kim, and the guy was like, well, where's your stamp? And I look, I'm like, oh, I didn't know I need a stamp. So he says, yep, just go over there and check with the hostess and then come back over and then we'll get you all set. So here I am walking over to the little stand, Kim, and I said, hey, I want to do this excursion. I want to swing from the rope and jump in the water. And the guy's looking at me and he gives me this form to fill out, Trisha, a waiver and a liability. I'm like, oh, and then for that moment, I'm like, do I really want to do this? And I think about this in terms also of whether it's your entrepreneur journey, whether maybe you're thinking about the person that you want to be with, whatever that may be. You get this moment and you think, there's a lot of risk involved here. There's a lot of liability. Do I really want to do this? But in that moment, I said, I'm going to press through. I said I was going to do this and I'm going to do this. So how many of you need to press through and do what you said that you told yourself you were going to do? So anyway, I signed the liability, and I have to admit, Tanya, I didn't even read that form. I said, you know what? Let me just sign it. I'm sure things will be fine. God got me. So sign that form, walk back over to that ledge. And I look down. You know, it's one of those things. I'm sure you've all had those moments where you're looking at something from afar and it's like, oh, it doesn't look that bad. And then when you get up there, you get a whole nother perspective. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Whether that's in your relationship, your business, whether it's doing something new. It said, I think this was a good idea until you reach that ledge. And I get up to that ledge, Dr. Stephanie, and I'm like, okay, don't look down too much and don't look around too much. So said to the guy, I'm like, well, where do I hold the rope at? And what do I need to do? I need to do this thing quickly. He's like, oh, you're going to have so much fun. Just hold the rope here so that your hand doesn't slide. So then I heard, Debbie, hand slide. I'm like, oh boy, okay. So then again, I had this another hesitation. So again, in your journey where you're looking at fulfilling your goals, when you have these hesitations because you realize there's going to be a lot more work that I was not ready to be signed up for. But nevertheless, I grabbed that rope above the knot that he said. And then I said to him one more time, I said, but I just saw those kids holding their feet on the rope as well as their hand. He said, well, they have a different length than you. I would suggest you just hold the top of the rope, swing out, have fun. So that was literally my instruction. So think about this when you're setting your goals, or how some of us kind of look back and we were figuring out entrepreneurship as we were coming along. We're just kind of holding that rope and just jumping for it, which for some of us that are of interest, it may have worked out very well. But for other people that need more calculated steps, you may be thinking a little bit too much, as I was when I approached that ledge. But I jumped. I took that rope, I swung out, I jumped, and I fell into this 12 feet body of water. And once I went down, Chris, I'm like, oh, I'm swimming to the top, and I could not find the top. It felt like those, when I re-looked at the video, it was probably a few seconds. But in that moment, you feel like it was forever. So Pamski, I'm just trying to swim to that top in those few seconds that felt like it was forever. And all I kept thinking about was I am in 12 feet of water, and I wasn't sure how far I dropped in. But I made it to the top. I made it to the top. So today, as we are here on Therapy Thursday, how many of you have taken some risk? How many of you have looked at your goals and thought, well, I haven't done this before, but I'm ready to take the steps to sign the form, to grab the rope, to ask for directions, to do whatever I need to do so I can start building my confidence, because that confidence will get you momentum. Because I can tell you, Chima, I may not necessarily do that again, but I did feel confident when I did that. I swam to the shore after I was dropped down in that water by that rope. And I said, you know what? That was fun. Did that, brought the confidence. I'm like, in that moment, I think I could do it again. But I didn't do it again. My point is, Jackie, that I felt confident. So sometimes we have to do the thing, take the step, make the risk, ask the right questions, get the support, sign the form, whatever it may be metaphorically, to build the confidence, to get the momentum. So I hope today that you decide, whatever it is that's holding you back, that you take one step to build your confidence and to get your momentum. Well, that was just the bonus. That was not what I was here to talk about. But I had so much fun and excitement, and I hope that you all take some time, whether it's a mastermind retreat, whatever it may be, to take time out of your everyday life to reevaluate your mind, your body, your spirit, to get all those goals. Because I do believe that the things that most of us have yet to deal with, John, are the things that hold us back in our business, that hold us back in fulfilling those goals, hold us back in having the best relationship with ourselves. All right, so let's do a pivot. What I did want to talk to you about was one of the things that actually came up at the retreat. And I want to give you some quick tips, practical tips. I like to learn practically. Tell me the steps, what I need to do. Draw me a picture so I can see the vision. So one of the things that came up in particular with one of the women was about communication and sabotaging of relationships. So what I realized is that we can have all the knowledge in the world and we can have all the things, but when we are faced with toxic people, or some people will say people that have higher narcissistic traits, it's not that easy in that initial moment to just walk away or screw you or give the deuces or go kick rocks, right? Sometimes you have to engage and be with people along the way before you decide to make other arrangements, I would say, for your life. So one of the questions that we were processing and helping come up with some language is, how do you deal with people who are toxic and who are manipulative, and you get stuck and then you find yourself defending or explaining or personalizing what they're saying? You find yourself in this battle where, if when people have high manipulative traits and have high narcissistic traits, there's no winning. They're going to shift the blame. They're going to gaslight you. Whatever it is, you're going to walk away and it was your fault, Christina. Whatever it was, you're going to feel like, why did I even bring this up? Why did I even share this with this person? Because when I walk away, it's always my fault. They don't take responsibility. And this could be in your personal relationships. This could be even in your business relationships. So there's some phrases, and this is only in context of talking about toxic people, manipulative people who do not have healthy communication skills. So I want to give you some phrases that can help push them a little bit off balance and for you to keep your power, because we can know that we are in the healthy version of ourselves, but if we don't know how to deal with unhealthy people when certain situations come up, lots of people, man or women, get stuck, and then they find themselves getting in these arguments, conflict, defending themselves that are just not going to serve them. But I want to make it clear. It's important to make this extremely clear before we go down this bunny trail. And that is, Leslie, I want to make it clear right now that we cannot control someone else's reality. We cannot control someone else's reality. And I want you to walk in reality, knowing you cannot control anyone else's reality. But sometimes as kids, we've had our reality changed all the time. And as you're a parent, we can do the same thing. We want to imprint, we want to project onto our children what we want their reality to be. But if we start early, this is just another bonus. If we start early when we are training and teaching our children the way to go, to embrace their reality, to have opinions and help them shape what is already birthed inside of them, wow, we can really be birthing some healthy children. Anyway, so I want to make it clear that we cannot control someone else's reality. We don't have the right to control someone else's reality. We don't have the power to control someone else's reality. Okay, hope you got it, made it clear. Can't control anyone else's reality. But we all have to work very hard. Every single one of us, Caleb. We have to work hard at changing our programming, because what we don't understand is that very often we can be upset because someone else has a perception of us that we're uncomfortable with. Think about it. Some of you probably were arguing last night with a spouse or someone because you're trying to change their perception of their opinion or how they may see you or whatever the thing may be. So we challenge that person's perception of us and we get upset because people think this about us. But sometimes amazing things can happen when we begin to accept that other people, and I know this is hard to swallow, Dominique, when other people are allowed to have their own perception of us, even if it's faulty. Ouch, ouch, someone ouch. Yes, absolutely. Even if it's faulty, they are allowed to have that perception of us. So let me get to the key phrases because 30 minutes goes by quick here, but I want you to think about this. And I want you to start experimenting with this if you are dealing with toxic or manipulative people. The first one, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you feel that way. So imagine what happens when you're dealing with someone who, again, is toxic, manipulative, maybe high narcissistic traits, who is saying to you, Chris, I know why you did that. I know why you did that. I know I have not been the only person, Clarissa and Dwayne, who've dealt with people who they tell you how you feel or they tell you why you did something or what you're thinking. And usually they're either emotionally immature or somewhere in that manipulative scale or narcissistic traded scale, I should say. But I want you to think about, they know exactly what you did and what you did. They just read your mind, didn't they, Marilyn? So imagine what happens inside the other person's mind who's manipulative, who's telling you what you did and why you did it, when you can come back with, I'm sorry you feel that way. That can throw them off, because what happens is, again, this is with unhealthy people, because you engage to engage you, they're trying to get you to defend yourself. They want you to have a dog in the fight. They want you to get defensive. They don't say that, but it's like supply for them when they throw you off balance. And the next thing you know, you're swung around and you're bringing up something legitimate and you're swung around. And next thing you know, you're defending yourself. I know I'm not the only one who's been in those situations. But when you just stand there and you understand that you have the right to see you the way they want to, they have the right to see you any way that they want to, and that they can't control you, that you can calmly come back with, I'm sorry you feel that way. Because what happens when you respond with this is you are disarming him or her, and you are disentangling yourself from this dynamic that is going to go nowhere. Again, I'm talking about manipulative and toxic people. I don't want us to get us that confused with healthy people that know how to communicate. Number two, another fabulous thing that I like to say to disarm someone who's either manipulative, highly toxic, have high narcissistic traits is, wait for it, I can accept your faulty perception of me. It is absolutely phenomenal when you can announce to someone who is toxic that you are acknowledging that they have this weird, wacky, whatever you want to call it, perception of you, and you can accept it. But side note, you also have to be in a place of emotional maturity, a place of emotional regulation, and a place of, even if you're feeling anxious and you want to pull a dog in a fight, that you can pull yourself out and allow them to see you whatever way they want to see you. And you can accept that for them. Because by doing this, you're cutting off those energetic cords, all that stuff that they get you sucked right in, especially if it's someone that you potentially have a traumatic bond with. Traumatic bond basically means that where you're trying to heal in the same place where someone is hurting you. You're trying to heal in the same place where someone's getting you sick. So this can allow you, when you start taking the steps and empowering yourself by how you communicate and engage with these individuals, you can cut these energetic cords to this person by letting him or her know that you're not going to be manipulated. And you don't even have to say that, Rocky. You don't have to say, well, I'm not going to let you manipulate me. You just do the thing. Just do the thing. Number 3. The third thing that I like to say, if I ever have an exchange with a narcissist or a toxic person, is I have no right to control how you see me. I have no right to control how you see me. It's very much like that you're saying I can accept your faulty perception of me. But when you say it, I have no right to control how you see me, you're actually acknowledging that they see you in a way that you don't agree with, and you're okay with that. You are okay with that. Imagine how powerful you can be, Christina, when you're not getting the dog in a fight and trying to change someone's perception of you, especially when they are someone that you know is toxic and you've been in the same place with them over and over and over again. You can't win. They're always right. They're always shifting the blame back to you. They're emotionally immature. We can go on and on and on about that type of person who would engage in this unhealthy dynamics thrown in at you. So you are allowed to see me any way you want is the message you want to send them. You see, we can no longer get caught up with hearing from toxic people and having them rewrite our history and gaslight us. We don't want to do that anymore. We're not going to do that anymore on this Therapy Thursday. They tell us that we didn't hear what we know we heard, or they try to gaslight you and try to change your perception of what happened. Well, that really didn't happen. You didn't really hear that. You didn't really see that, whatever it may be. And then they get you in this place where you're thinking, well, did I really hear them say that? And then you start questioning yourself. They are meaning to do that. To swivel that chair right around and point it right back on you. This way, when you use empowering phrases and you start practicing and experimenting with them, you're practicing keeping your power on your side of the street. Because when you do that, you can finally start staying and saying, thanks to them, well, I have no right to control how you see me. I have no right to control your perception of the situation. You're actually telling that toxic person that you're not interested in engaging in this warfare, and what they think is totally fine. And I know what I'm saying is easier said than done, because it also takes us to look at our toxic traits and make sure that we're in a healthy place and we're practicing this detaching from other people's outcome of us. Number 4. The fourth thing, the key phrase I want you to consider with using with toxic people is, I guess I have to accept that that's how you feel. I guess I have to accept that that's how you feel. You see, it's all about accepting and allowing this person to be who they are, and accepting and allowing this person's perception of you, even though it bothers you. And I didn't mention that because it can bother you that they feel a certain way about you. It can bother you that they have a wrong perception of you. But I want you to keep in mind who you are dealing with. If they are someone who is toxic, if they're someone who are manipulative, if they're someone who is high in narcissistic traits, there is no winning with them. You are going to continue to get sick. And on a side note, the longer you stay in relationships with toxic people, especially romantic relationships, it affects your health, not only your mental health, your physical health. The stress level in your body creates inflammation. Consistent inflammation of your body leads you vulnerable to cancers, to migraines, to sickness. So you are at risk for the long term, the longer you think. And I hear women say this to me all the time, Portia, and that's like, I'm built for this. I can handle this. Handle toxic people? Come on. Those days are over where you don't have options. You have options. Anyway, I won't get on my soapbox about that one, but you want to send a message that I'm accepting and you are allowed to think about me, whatever you think about me. And I understand it may bother you. So we're not discounting it. It may bother you what that person is thinking and how you're engaging in them. Even though it hurts, it could hurt you very badly. You want to send that clear message to that toxic person that you can accept how they feel and that they're entitled to their reality. Because when you start using empowering phrases and you keep your power, you send that message, I'm not willing to play this game. Because with toxic, manipulative, high narcissistic trait people, it is a game. And I think some people think you can love them enough that you can, fill in the blank enough. And then all of a sudden, they're going to see your value and see your worth. Honey, if they didn't see your worth and value in the beginning, you are not going to perform in a way to get them to see your value. There's a whole nother thing that we can talk about another time, but it's called intermittent reinforcement, especially when you're dealing with toxic people. They give you the breadcrumbs, withdraw, give you the breadcrumbs, withdraw. When you're acting the way that they want you to act, they're loving you. When you're acting the way that they don't want you to act, they withdraw, they stonewall. And then what happens, it creates this intermittent reinforcement. You're waiting for them to come around to get that attention, to get that validation, to feel that love again before it's withdrawn again. And that's what keeps you addicted and gets you in that traumatic bond with them. The fifth and last phrase I'll share with you today is your anger is not my responsibility. I have many people, not only through this past weekend, where we talk about other people's anger, and they're essentially training you to walk on eggshells, to not bring up certain topics, to not have conversations because they're going to get defensive. They're going to be angry at you, and they train you. Don't bring any bad news to me because I don't want to hear it, because I'm not going to be open to it. They don't say that, but that's what happens in their actions. Because the reason that's so important is because many times toxic people will, and let's even say people with high narcissistic traits, will attract someone that has high empathetic traits, male or female. And sometimes that's normally a codependent person. And I'm just using, therapeutic terms. Codependent people is, I'm cold, but I'm giving you the sweater because I care more about other people than I care about myself. So someone who is seeking validation from outside of themselves, you are going to be like the bloods for a vampire. You're gonna have a target on you. So you have to become well, because toxic people seek power and control on a superficial level that might look like validation, and you still think they're actually looking, but I think they're still actually just looking for power and control, again, subconsciously, because they can feel validated by the other person when they can manipulate and control them. And codependence means seeking validation, and poof, there's a perfect marriage there. It's a beautiful blend. It's a hand in a glove. So that's why it's important for you to also understand, especially if you're highly empathetic and you give a lot, you're going to attract takers. You're going to attract those blood-sucking toxic people. So now you have to have discernment and have awareness, because you're continuously doing your work. So I'm going to pause right there, and I would love to hear some thoughts on Clubhouse. What resonated with you? What questions do you have? What do you want to share?
Well, I just have to say real quickly, we're neighbors. I'm in Orlando. I'm a I practice as a psychotherapist for several decades. And so, sister, we need to connect. Everything that you were dropping was just fire and so on point, and I just commend you. And Dr. Janie, it is a privilege to meet you. Look forward to knowing you more.
Well, look at that. I love my O-Town sisters, especially for those that are in psychology and psychotherapy. So yes, send me a DM and we are going to get together for some lunch. We could probably talk about this all day.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, and speaking of that, for anyone that's going to be in Miami this weekend, Dr. Jen, I'm going down to Miami to the Aspire conference, and I'm going to be attending Dave Meltzer's VIP dinner. And while I'm there, we'll be getting caught up with other friends. So if any of you are going to be there, let me know. We'll love to see you, love to hug your neck, love to have a conversation. Or if you're going to be attending David Meltzer's VIP dinner all the way on the top Friday night, love to see you down in Miami. So let me know if you're there. Any other comments, any other questions, any other thoughts?
Well, as a former gaslit person, I will say I love the empowerment. But Dr. Janie, I'm going to tell you, from your empowerment, first, the yellow just shines on you. You sound re-energized. I hear it in your voice, the impact it made on you. So I want to leave room for anybody else real quick. But wow, I hear it in you. You're just on fire.
Thank you, Marilyn. As you know, I like to practice what I preach. So even though I was pouring out, I was also getting poured into, and it was an amazing, amazing experience. It's important that, especially if you are healers and givers or highly empathetic, you want to ask yourself who is pouring into you. You want to make sure, as now I have my Orlando sister, Dr. Jen, you want to make sure that you have people around you who understand and who could pour into you just as much as you pour into others. We don't want to pour from an empty cup. Any other last minute comments, thoughts, questions? 1 minute.
Good morning, guys. This is Portia. So, Dr. Jenny, I have a quick question. So, we're talking about narcissistic relationships. I just want to drop this in there. Would you say you're a proponent of somebody leaving a narcissistic relationship? Like, if you notice that your partner has narcissistic traits or tendencies, do you deal with those, or is it better to strategize your exit?
Very, very complicated question, because I would have to say it depends. But when you remain in a relationship with someone that has high narcissistic traits, you have to have radical acceptance and understand who they are and that you cannot change them. But you also have to understand that you will be highly neglected in that relationship, will walk on eggshells, feel alone, feel like you can't be yourself. And over time, you will continue to abandon yourself, especially if it's a romantic relationship. You will abandon yourself in order to stay in that relationship to try to please that person. So I never tell people what they should or shouldn't do, because I don't live with results. But I can tell you, if you know that that's someone that has higher narcissistic traits and you decide to stay in that relationship with them, you need to understand what you're signing up for. So thank you, Portia, for that question. And thank you for Breakfast with Champions. I hope you all got something this morning from Therapy Thursday, and understand that you are empowered and we are no longer giving our power away. So have a blessed day. And I'm going to turn it over to my sister, Lolita. Good morning, Lolita.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. What an